Hello my friends, welcome to today's video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs. This video is for the beginner who wants to try alcohol ink for the first time and doesn't have a large budget. Working with alcohol ink can get very expensive. So in this video, I'm going to show you alternatives to getting started, which will not break the bank. So there is a lot of information in this video. I usually speed my videos up, but there's so much information that I want to provide you with that I kept this video in real time. We're going to be working with alcohol ink markers, tile, and the Ranger hand blower. And I'm going to give you options. If you don't have a product that I'm using, I'm going to give you another option that you may have around the house. Now, working with alcohol ink, you definitely need alcohol, and it has to be 91 to 99% alcohol. If you use anything below that percentage, what happens is that the alcohol will contain more water, and alcohol inks and water do not get along. So you want to make sure that the percentage of the alcohol you're using is between 91 or 99. Using 99 means that it will dry a little bit faster. So I suggest if you're a beginner, start with 91%. So here I'm using these alcohol ink markers that I purchased at Five Below. I got 18 markers for $5, and you have to make sure that they're alcohol-based markers. Now, if you don't have a Five Below near you, I will be sure to list an alternative in the description box below. So all the products that you see me use in this video or talk about, I will list in the description box. All you have to do is click in the area where you see the title and it will expand, and there you will see a link that reads click here for the supplies used in this video. It will take you to my Amazon store. Once you get to the Amazon store, just click on the picture of the video you just watched and everything will be listed there. All right, now let's get back to the video. I'm working on tile. And when you purchase tile that you can get at the Home Depot, any hardware store, make sure that the tile is glazed. They are very inexpensive, but you have to make sure that it is glazed. If it's not glazed, the tile will absorb the ink and you won't be able to move it. So make sure that it's glazed, and you can tell that it's glazed. If you put a drop of water on the tile, it doesn't get absorbed. It just sits on the top of the tile. So that's how you know. And you can buy any shape, any size, but it's best to work with white, I find. But of course, if you want to use a beige tile, go ahead. Just make sure that it is a smooth tile, not textured, and that it's glazed. So now here are the markers that I purchased. So you can see there's 18. They're called illustration markers. I don't know if all Five Below have them, but again, I'll be listing an alternative in the description box just in case. So I used some bright colors because I want to make sure that you can see them in the video, and I just drew some lines. Now I'm taking a drop of pitch black straight from the bottle, and I'm going to be using a dirty micro brush to move it around and spread it so I can create a larger center. Now, if you don't have the ink pitch black, you can simply use a black alcohol ink marker to create your center. And now you want to make sure that it's dry. I'm using my Revlon dryer, which is not very strong, but it has a couple of settings, which is great for alcohol ink. If you have a blow dryer, just put it on the lowest setting and you can dry your ink that way. And this is the Ranger hand blower. I love the way this works on tile. I prefer it over my airbrush. So you can see that I'm putting down a drop of the alcohol on the tile, and I would say it's about the size of a nickel, and I let it sit for just a moment and it will begin to spread. And then I'm squeezing the hand blower, and you can see that I'm not moving it. I'm just keeping it in the same location, and I'm blowing the ink until it reaches the end of the tile. Once it reaches the end of the tile and I can see that the petal is completely dry, I'll move the blower and to the edge of the tile and blow off any excess ink and alcohol. You'll see me do that throughout, so keep an eye on that so you know what I mean. And you'll be able to see how the ink is drying on the tile. You can actually see it in the video. Don't worry about what the edges look like. I'm going to show you how to clean that up. Just make sure that the entire petal is dry and then blow any excess ink and alcohol off the edge. So again, you can see it's about the drop of alcohol that I put down is about the size of a nickel. And now when you're blowing these petals on the side of the tile, you can see that it will start to go towards the corners, the alcohol. Just blow that little puddle off and don't worry about it. Seriously, a lot of people get so concerned at the end of the tile, the edge of the tile looks like crap. We can fix that. So go around and blow out your petals. I don't like to blow my petals one next to the other. I like to stagger them and then come back and blow a petal in between. But you can do it any way you like. And again, working with tile is great because if you don't like it, you can just spray it with some alcohol, take a paper towel, and wipe it off. And now the Ranger hand blower costs about maybe $12. And it's a wonderful alternative if you don't have the budget for an airbrush. The airbrush that I use is made by Masters. I'll be sure to link that in the description box as well. And it's about $100. It has an adjustable PSI, which I find very helpful because I change the PSI depending on what it is that I'm doing. And I usually work with a PSI of between 20 and 40. So as I'm blowing out these petals, I want you to notice that I'm holding the Ranger air blower almost level with the tile. I'm just pointing the tip downward. And I keep it in the same location until I see that the petal is completely dry. And then again, I blow off the excess alcohol and ink right off the edge of the tile. And listen, if your hand gets tired with the Ranger, the hand blower, just take a break. Take a break, go pour yourself a cup of coffee, go do a load of laundry, and then come back. Now don't worry that you can see I'm pointing out a line that I created with the marker. Don't worry about that. We'll fix that too. And now the reason that I put the pitch black in the center is because it creates this beautiful fade in the center of and it makes the petals look like they're concave towards the center, and it gives me a great base to create the center of the flower using white ink. And the ink that I'll be using is Snowcap, and it is a mixative. It's an alcohol ink, but it's a mixative, and it's a little bit thicker than normal alcohol ink. Now, if you don't have that, if you don't have the Snowcap, you can use acrylic paint. You can use a toothpick if you don't have a micro brush, but we'll get to that in a minute. So now to clean up the areas in between your petals, you can use a cotton swab. Just put a little drop of alcohol on the swab and start removing the ink. But make sure that you keep turning the cotton swab so that you're not just moving the ink, you're actually lifting it. And you're going to need more than one. So this is something that everybody usually has in their house. So it's a good way to clean up the tile. Just make sure that you keep turning the tip so that you have a clean area, so that you're not just moving the ink around, you're actually lifting it. But I'm going to show you now what I prefer to use, and these are really inexpensive. It comes in a set of 3, and they are alcohol blending markers. So it is a marker filled with alcohol, and it has 2 sides. One is a chiseled and the other one is a pointy tip. And you can see that it makes it really easy to clean the tile, and you can also use it on photo paper, Yupo paper, just about any surface that you can use alcohol ink on. Now you can see that as I remove the ink from the tile, I constantly clean the tip of the marker on my paper towel because I want to remove the ink from the tip. Otherwise, I'm just moving it around the tile. And this works really well. And having the dual tip is great because you can get into those tight little corners. And another thing that's wonderful about using these blending pens is that if you don't like the shape of your petal, you can reshape it, and I'll show you in a moment. Now I'm going to show you how you refill these. You remove the nib and you just put a couple of drops of alcohol into that opening. But only a couple of drops. Don't put too much, don't overfill it, because if you do, what happens is when you touch the tip of the marker to the tile, it will release that alcohol onto the tile, and the alcohol will spread and ruin your petals, the shapes of your petals. So it's really important that you just put a few drops in there. And you can see how I've switched to the pointier tip, and I can get into those tight little areas. And always clean your tip off on your paper towel. Usually after every swipe, you'll see me doing it. I prefer to use the chiseled edge because I can turn it on its side, and that helps me get into those tight little corners. And in a moment, you'll see how I start to reshape some of the petals that I don't like. And now I've had these blending pens for a while, and I've been using them for a couple of years now because, again, the tip is easy to clean and they are refillable, so you'll have them for a good long time. You can see here that I am starting to reshape this petal because I'm dealing with a lot of humidity. And alcohol ink and humidity do not get along. That's why I decided to use markers for today. I haven't been able to use the inks because of the humidity, even though I have a very large dehumidifier near my studio, and I do have a moisture trap on my airbrush. It's very frustrating when you have water spitting out of your airbrush. So using the markers is a really great alternative, as well as using the Ranger hand blower. So you can see here I have some of those thick ink lines, and I can easily remove them with this blending pen and reshape my petals when I don't like the way they look. Here you can see how I'm using the blending marker to reshape this petal and how easy it is. So I'm going to go around the entire tile and clean up any edges that I don't like, reshape any petals that I don't like, and then I'm going to show you how to clean the edge of your tile and create a really nice border. It's very simple. So once I've got my tile all cleaned up, I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to wrap it around my finger. And now I'm going to put just a couple of drops of alcohol. Again, don't use too much because it will spread on the tile. So just dampen the paper towel, press your finger against the edge of the tile and run it down the side. And then find a clean spot on your paper towel and repeat that process all around 4 sides to remove the ink and create this really nice border that finishes off your painting very nicely. So I'm going to continue with this process. I'm going to speed this part up, but just make sure to continue turning the paper towel to a clean spot, putting just a little bit of alcohol, pressing your finger to the edge of the tile and running it over and cleaning up those edges. Once you have finished cleaning up the edges of your tile, I'm going to show you how to clean up those little lines that you get in between your petals. Now you can use the paper towel wrapped around your finger, but if you have the blending pen, you can use that to clean up and tidy up your edges very nicely. You can also use these blending pens to clean up the edges of your tile, and that does take a little practice, but it's the same technique that you use when you have the paper towel around the side on your finger. You just press the edge of the marker along the side like you see me doing here and run it along. And again, continue to clean the nib on your paper towel to remove the ink that you have just lifted from the tile. But you can see here how I'm running it along that line that the paper towel created in between the petals, just to clean it up and make it more tidy. You can also use these blending markers to create the border on the edge of your tile and clean up the edges. And that takes a little practice, but it's the same technique as you do with the paper towel around your finger. Just press the chiseled edge against the side of the tile and use that as your guide. And remember to continuously clean the nib of the marker so that you're not just spreading the ink. All right, so now we've got our edges clean, everything is nice and tidy. We're going to create the center of our flower. I'm using Snow Cap, which is a mixative, and it is an alcohol ink, but it is thicker than the regular bottled inks. And this is what I like to use for my centers, but if you don't have Snow Cap, you can use acrylic paint. And I'm using a micro brush. And these are fairly inexpensive. I think I get 500 of them for maybe $10, and I reuse them. So you can do that as well. If you don't have a micro brush, you can use a dotting tool. And if you don't have, again, the Snow Cap, you can use acrylic craft paint to create this type of center. And you can see that I start by creating the shape of my center. So I go around, I create a round shape, and then as I reload my brush, I always start at the top left-hand corner because that's the area that I want the light to be coming from. And then the bottom right-hand corner will be my shaded area. And by concentrating my dots on the top left-hand corner, I am creating depth and dimension to my center. And creating this type of center requires multiple layers. You can't just do one layer and think that it's just going to look flat. It's not going to have dimension. So you'll see I load the brush and I start at the top, and then as I need to reload my brush, that's when I move down. And I make sure that the dots are further apart, and you can see that they're much lighter as well. So reloading the brush and moving down as I need to reload the brush another time. Now again, if you don't have the micro brush, you can use a dotting tool. A set of them is very inexpensive, and there's all different sizes, and you'll use them for other crafts as well. And if you don't have that, use a wooden toothpick. Just kind of use a nail file to flatten the end of the toothpick, and you can try it with that as well. The micro brushes are great and very simple to use, but if you don't have them, there are other alternatives. So you can see I've continued adding dots at the top, working my way down, making sure that it's darker on the bottom right-hand corner than it is on the top left-hand corner, and that gives you depth and dimension to your center. And I add many, many layers. And this is just a simple center. There's many other centers that you can learn to do. You can check out my playlist in YouTube to see the category flower centers, and I'll show you a bunch of different other centers that you can create as well. All right, so now our center is ready. It's finished, it looks dimensional, it looks really pretty, and you can see how using the black in the center creates a nice shadow around that center. So now you're stuck with the side of the tile, and you can see that it's not glazed and all that ink and alcohol was absorbed. So this is what I like to do to finish off the edges of my tile. I like to use Posca pens. Posca pens are acrylic paint pens, and they come in a variety of sizes and colors. Now, if you don't have a Posca pen, you can use acrylic craft pen, paint on a paintbrush, and you can just paint the side of your tile. You may have to do a couple of coats. Now, even with the Posca pen, I have to do a couple of coats, especially if I'm just using white. But you can see how easy it is to do this with these markers or pens. I'm also going to show you not just the white, but I'm going to show you a red also, so that you can see what it looks like if you choose to do it using color other than just white. Also, when you're using these, when you are painting on tile, you do have to seal the tile like you would any other surface when you're using alcohol ink. Now, I understand that the Camar varnish and UV protection are very difficult to find these days, but there are a lot of posts where I see people are using a product by Winsor & Newton, and I will link that in the description box. I have not used it, so I can't tell you how well it works or doesn't work, but I've read a lot of posts where people are very happy with the way it works. So if you'd like to give that a try, again, I'll list it in the description box for you. So now we have our finished tile, and it turned out gorgeous. I hope that you give this a try. It's a very inexpensive way to get your feet wet with alcohol ink. Also, for those of you who don't know, I have a Facebook group, Vivo Vintage Design Tutorials, where you can post your versions of the paintings and techniques learned on this channel. We have a great group of members who are very supportive and very talented. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your interaction is really helpful to my channel and greatly appreciated. If you have any questions about the techniques you've seen me use in this video, just drop it in the comment section. I will always get back to you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.